In one of the great scenes in the history of cinema, Moses, played by Mel Brooks, receives 3 stone tablets at the top of Mount Sinai in History of the World, Part 1. As he stumbles down the mountain carrying them, Moses calls out to the people, "The Lord Jehovah has given you these 10 commandments for all to obey." The revision in the number of commandments occurs just after one of the tablets slips out of Moses' arms and breaks on the ground. In this scene, Brooks nicely exposes the paradigmatic instance of all law-giving in human history as replete with contingency. We take the number of commandments as somehow significant, as somehow necessary, as ordained by the ultimate authority, but the film shows that Moses comes up with 10 simply because he dropped 5 of them. If we laugh at this scene, as I think we should, we're well on the way to grasping the absence of any authorization behind the law. And this is an idea that comes to us not just from comedy, not just from History of the World Part 1, but also from psychoanalytic thought. So the law itself, for this way of thinking, is a formal necessity. It's not something, the law itself isn't contingent. It's an effect of the signifying structure, but this necessity has no support in any legislator who comes up with the particular laws, as the nice example of Mel Brooks's Moses shows. Recognizing the law as a form rather than a content enables us to engage with it as a site for emancipation from the hierarchies of tradition. The emancipatory power of the law stems from the absolute break that it introduces into history. So it doesn't matter whether Moses broke a third of the commandments or not. What matters is that the law introduces a break for subjectivity. The radicality of the modern law, in fact, stems from its unauthorized status. The absence of any authorized legislator who could decree the law gives us a space from the tradition, a space of freedom relative to the law. And without this link to the decision of the legislator, the limitation of the law ceases to be a particular limit, as it is when a monarch or other leader announces it, and it becomes universalizing. The prohibition inherent in the law is emancipatory insofar as it is senseless. The senseless prohibition has a transcendent status relative to the social order because it lacks any justification within that order. It's not tied to any particular laws. So particular laws make sense. Don't steal, don't murder, etc. But the law as such doesn't make sense. It's nonsensical. It's stupid. There's no way to account for it within the symbolic chain of reasons. And internalizing the senselessness of the law as such, the form of the law, arms us against the impulse to bow down before the law's emissaries who command obedience in its name. The points where we understand the law and rebel against it are actually oppressive moments. Although they appear opposed to each other, obedience and transgression seem to be not the same. But emancipation, I want to say, is opposed to both, is opposed to both obedience and transgression. Emancipation can only occur through the acceptance of the senselessness, the stupidity of the law. The search for the justification of the law in the legislator that produces it represents a failure to confront the law as an absolute origin. It's to miss the constitutive status that the law plays in the world of signification. So even though there's always a legislator behind the various positive laws that exist, there's no legislator that authorizes the law itself. The law as such is always unauthorized. The law marks an absolute origin that serves as its own authorization. So it's internally authorized, not authorized by the legislator. Neither the wisdom of Moses nor the inspiration of the divine creates the law. Instead, the law introduces a break from the past that has no precursor in the activity of any lawgiver. As a result, the law plays a generative role for subjectivity. The break that it introduces constitutes subjectivity, which emerges in response to the limit that the law introduces. To reject this absolute break and to seek a reason for the law in the legislator is to miss the emancipatory function of the law, I want to contend. Only when we accept the law as nonsensical can it set us free, because only a nonsensical law marks an absolute beginning, not indebted to the wisdom of the legislator. So if you're thinking about the legislator as the source of the law, you're actually under the spell of the legislator and missing the form of the law. You're caught up in the content of the law, not the form. As a nonsensical force, the law uproots us from society's demands by laying down a universal prohibition that trumps all other impulses that derive from the social situation. So the law is, in this sense, has a transcendent status outside of the social context or social situation. Without an acceptance of the nonsensical and emancipatory status of the law, we run into what I would call a neurotic dependence on the lawgiver that sees in this figure the ultimate meaning of the law. So the law is freeing when it separates itself and we separate it from any author. The law is nonsensical because the legislator is always unauthorized. Whatever sense the lawgiver tries to give it never shapes the significance of the law as such, never shapes the form of the law, only the content of the law. We seek refuge, I think, from the generative status of the law in the idea of a figure existing behind the law that knows what it's doing. And this is what the comedy of Moses and the Decalogue indicates. If we didn't suppose Moses to be this ultimate authority who knows what he's doing, the scene wouldn't be funny. Confronting the absence of anyone authorizing the law forces us to accept the senselessness of the law's basic injunction. There's no sense to what the law commands because there's no authority that underwrites it. The mystery of the law is just an illusion tied to the belief that there is a legislator back there who knows what he's doing. The weak point in the law always concerns this legislator, and we can justify particular laws or even the existence of the entire legal apparatus itself, but we can never justify the legislator behind the law. The problem is that there's no authorization that can justify or authorize the authority. If another figure authorized the legislator, then the immediate question would be, who's authorizing this authorizer behind the authority? And so it's the dilemma recurs ad infinitum, I think. The legislator that lays down the law is thus always an impostor whose unauthorized status stains the law itself. And Jacques Lacan, the psychoanalytic theorist, theorizes that the authority of the legislator founders upon what he calls the absence of a meta-language. There's no escape for Lacan from the basic deadlock of language itself. So that is to say, one can't step outside of language to discuss language. And in his essay, The Subversion of the Subject and the Dialectic of Desire in the Freudian Unconscious, he liked little pithy titles, Lacan points out the insolubility of the problem of the meta-language for speaking beings who nonetheless require the law. And this is what he says. No authoritative statement has any other guarantee here than its very enunciation, since it would be pointless for the statement to seek it in another signifier, which could in no way appear outside that locus. I formulate this by saying that there is no meta-language that can be spoken, or, more aphoristically, that there is no other of the other. And when the legislator, the one who claims to lay down the law, comes forward to make up for this, they do so as an impostor. So this is kind of an actually pretty clear statement on Lacan's part, unusually. Every legislator is an impostor, even though the law itself is a structural necessity. The unauthorized status of the legislator is a fact that many people unconsciously recoil from, which leads them to seek out a hidden reason for the law in the legislator that then justifies the law. The signifying structure of the law leaves the subject unable to confront the senselessness of the injunction, which is, I think, the ethical, political imperative that psychoanalysis makes clear. The image of the authorized legislator is essential for the psychic investment in the law that goes beyond the mere form of the law. This excessive investment derives from a belief that the law is secret, a secret associated with the unauthorized legislator can be found out. The basic illusion that the law establishes is that it's authorized, that it has something that we can know within it, and that knowledge is located within the legislator or the lawgiver. And that's what psychoanalysis wants to make clear doesn't exist. The absolute nonsensical status of the law, the stupidity of the legislator, the fact that Moses dropped a third of the commandments. The illusory figure of authority lurking behind the law provides a point through which subjects invest themselves in the law, But by depriving them of this figure, depriving us of this figure, psychoanalytic thought opens the door to seeing the emancipatory form of the law that its content obscures. Thanks.